All right, our active weather coverage continues here, and this is all about the West Coast, where the copious amounts of rain and storms. We get all these storms coming in from the subtropics, bringing loads of rain. The ground can't really absorb the moisture anymore. It flows into the rivers, and then they start looking like this. And some of them, of course, have been exceeding their banks, flood watches, flood warnings, and that's where we find Connor O'Donovan. So we got meteorologist Kevin MacKay taking care of the analysis. Connor O'Donovan, you are on location, and of course, you've been there the last couple of days. What were some of the, the highlights, I guess, from yesterday?
That's right. Well, you mentioned the Seymour River there, and as you know, I'm typically Calgary-based, so not familiar with that basin and that river, and so heading up to that, getting on some of the bridges over that river in North Vancouver, which is flanked by homes on either side. When you get close down to the lower waters there, it was going pretty good, and from our perspective, it's a foot or two beneath people's backyards. It's kind of spilling up into some folks' backyards too. So we went and spoke to some of those residents, but for them, it's almost business as usual. That's what we found is a lot of the residents there have really learned to respect that river, and we found a few folks sandbagging there just in case. They had told us they had seen higher, faster river flows in the past. Some of them had lived there for decades, of course. So people really learned to respect that river, taking cautions. They said they had seen some flow levels drop actually by the time we had gotten there, but with more rain in the forecast, they weren't taking any chances, and they were sandbagging and sealing off those backyards to prevent any flooding into their homes.
So that was the new flooding concern yesterday. The ongoing flooding concern has been with the farms in the lower land around Abbotsford. Is there any update in that flooding situation?
Yeah, a bit of an update there, overnight and over the last couple of days. We have gotten more rain, but luckily those floodwaters are still receding towards that Nooksack River south of the U.S. border. So we've seen the city of Abbotsford lift a number of flood or evacuation orders and alerts, cancel the alerts and downgrade some of those orders to alerts, which is allowing some of those residents to get back into their homes and survey the damage, see what might have occurred. I spoke to a dairy farmer yesterday. He said that luckily, compared to previous events in the area, we're seeing very little in terms of livestock loss, but it's still going to be a lot of damage, a lot of cleanup on some of those farms. So we're going to actually go check out one of those farms this morning as well and see what that looks like as floodwaters recede.
Well, as floodwaters recede, the freezing levels are also dropping. So, Connor, there's more rain and more wind in the forecast today through tonight. But the other thing is that there's going to be some snow. So we know the last storm brought rain into the peaks of the mountains, but this next one won't do that. Do you think that's a bit of a silver lining, the fact that there's going to be some snow in this next forecast?
100%. I've been tuning into all the news conferences that the officials here have been putting on, and that was the kind of the big wild card they kept stressing over the weekend is maybe we're not seeing quite as much rain as would make this a really catastrophic situation, but that snow melt was what they were so concerned about with that rain in those higher elevations and some snow having already fallen. So a silver lining for sure, especially maybe for the skiers in the area. I know there's a lot of folks out here just like in Calgary who take any chance they can get to get out to the mountains. I saw a video at Lake Louise over the past couple of days. It looked like the line of cars was a few football fields long just to get off the highway. So you might get some of that action, but yeah, I think that with some snow in the mountains, a silver lining and a chance for some of those folks out here to stretch the legs and get back on the boards and skis.
All right, well, Connor, you've done great work in the Lower Mainland there the last few days. Stay safe, and of course, you're not going to get much rest, though, because you're on a plane later today heading back home, and, we're going to put you back to work tomorrow because we've got, Kevin, a little snowstorm coming to the prairies.
I think it's a big one coming, and it's not just going to be one area. This is going to have the cold, it's going to have the wind, it's going to have the snow, right from Edmonton to Winnipeg.
All right, Connor, get some sleep tonight. We'll need you fresh as a daisy tomorrow. Thank you for your coverage.